The blood-curdling screech echoed through the corridors of the Galactic Medical Station Novum, causing everyone within earshot to freeze in place. Dr. Zilak, the station's chief medical officer, dropped his diagnostic pad and pressed his four-fingered hands against the sides of his bulbous head where his auditory canals quivered in distress. "It is getting worse," he said, his skin shifting from its normal pale blue to a sickly gray. "The parasite has spread to another section of Ambassador Threll's brain stem." The medical team, consisting of 5 of the most skilled xenobiologists in the Andromeda Concordat, stood huddled outside the quarantine chamber. Through the transparent barrier, they could see their patient, a high-ranking Phidian diplomat whose body was being ravaged from within by an organism unlike anything they had encountered before. Ambassador Threll's normally imposing 7-foot frame was now contorted in agony, her scaled skin covered in pulsing protrusions that seemed to move with a life of their own. The parasite had entered her system during a diplomatic mission to an uncharted planet in the Vega sector 3 weeks ago, and had been growing ever since, defying all treatment attempts. "We cannot proceed with the extraction," said Dr. Malfi, the station's parasitology expert, her 3 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of extreme distress among her species. "The creature has embedded itself too deeply in the ambassador's neural tissue. Any attempt to remove it will likely kill the host." Dr. Zilak's assistant, Nevix, hurried toward the group, his thin legs moving so quickly they blurred. "We just received a transmission," Nevix announced, breathing heavily. "The human medical ship Asclepius has responded to our distress call. They're docking now." Dr. Zilak looked at his team, doubt evident in his expression. "Humans? What could they possibly know about this parasite that we do not?" "The human vessel claims to have a specialist in parasitic extractions," Nevix replied. "A surgeon named Dr. Gregory Wells." The name meant nothing to the alien medical team, but at this point, they were willing to try anything. Ambassador Threll was not just any patient, she was a key figure in maintaining peace between 3-star systems. Her death would have political ramifications that could destabilize the entire sector. "Very well," Dr. Zilak conceded. "Prepare the surgical bay and alert security. But remember, this is our patient and our responsibility. The human may observe and advise, nothing more." 20 minutes later, the doors to the medical bay slid open with a pneumatic hiss. A man of average height walked in, dressed in the distinctive white and blue uniform of the Earth Alliance Medical Corps. His face showed signs of fatigue, dark circles under his eyes, stubble on his chin, but his gaze was sharp and focused. "Dr. Gregory Wells." He introduced himself with a brief nod. "Parasitology and emergency xenosurgery." Dr. Zilak stepped forward. "I am Chief Medical Officer Zilak. We appreciate your prompt response, but I must inform you that the situation is beyond conventional treatment methods. The parasite has integrated with the ambassador's neural network in a way we've never seen." Dr. Wells didn't seem fazed. "I'd like to see your scans and any data you've collected on the organism." The human's demeanor was not what Dr. Zilak had expected. There was no arrogance, no typical human bravado that aliens often complained about. Instead, there was a quiet intensity that seemed to command respect. "Of course," Dr. Zilak agreed, gesturing to Nevix, who quickly transferred the files to a datapad compatible with human technology. Dr. Wells spent several minutes studying the information, his expression growing more concerned with each swipe of his finger across the screen. "This is a variant of a neural hijacker," he finally said. "We encountered something similar during the Proxima Centauri incident last year. It's designed to infiltrate the host's nervous system and eventually take control of motor functions." "That is impossible," Dr. Malfi interjected. "No parasite can control a sentient being's actions." "With all due respect," Dr. Wells replied, "that's exactly what this one does. It's bioengineered a weapon, not a natural organism." The revelation sent a wave of shock through the alien medical team. Dr. Zilak's skin paled even further. "You are suggesting this was an intentional attack on the ambassador?" "It's a possibility we can't ignore," Dr. Wells said grimly. "But right now, our priority is saving your patient. And to do that, we need to act quickly." A loud alarm suddenly blared from the quarantine chamber. On the monitors, Ambassador Threll's vital signs were plummeting. "Her autonomic nervous system is shutting down," Nevix reported frantically. Brain activity is becoming erratic. We need to operate now, Dr. Wells said, already moving toward the preparation area. The parasite is accelerating its takeover. But the risks, Dr. Zilak began, are less than the certainty of death if we do nothing. Dr. Wells finished for him. I've performed this procedure before. It's not pretty, but it works. Dr. Zilak hesitated only a moment longer before nodding. Prepare the surgical bay. Full quarantine protocols. Within minutes, the team was suited up in protective gear that covered them from head to toe. The ambassador had been transferred to the surgical table, her massive body secured with restraints both for her safety and for the team's. Dr. Wells stood at the head of the table, now dressed in the same protective gear as the others. The suit was slightly too large for his human frame, but he seemed comfortable enough as he examined the tray of surgical instruments. I'll need a phase resonance scalpel, he said, looking at the array of alien medical tools. Dr. Melfi handed him a slender device that hummed softly when activated. This procedure requires precision timing, Dr. Wells explained. The parasite has wrapped itself around the ambassador's brain stem and spinal cord. We need to create a localized electromagnetic pulse that will stun the organism without damaging the host's neural tissue. That is impossible, Dr. Zilak said. The differential between parasite and host tissue is too small for such targeting. Not if we introduce a contrast agent first, Dr. Wells countered. Something the parasite will absorb but the host cells will reject. The alien medical team looked at each other, clearly skeptical. What did you have in mind? Dr. Melfi asked. Polyphasic nanites, Dr. Wells replied. Programmed to bind to the specific protein structure of the parasite. We do not have such technology, Dr. Zilak admitted. I do, Dr. Wells said. He turned and called out to someone outside the surgical bay. Sarah, bring in the case. A moment later, another human entered, carrying a metal case marked with the Earth Alliance insignia. Dr. Sarah Johnson, as she introduced herself, was Dr. Wells' assistant and nanite programmer. The nanites are ready, she said, placing the case on a nearby table and opening it to reveal a vial of what looked like shimmering liquid metal. How do we know this will not harm the ambassador? Dr. Zilak demanded. We don't, not with absolute certainty, Dr. Wells admitted. But I've used this technique on 17 different species infected with similar parasites. 15 survived. And the other 2? Dr. Melfi asked. We're already too far gone, Dr. Wells said grimly. Just like the ambassador will be if we don't act now. As if to emphasize his point, Ambassador Threll's body suddenly convulsed, her back arching off the table despite the restraints. The monitors showed her life signs becoming increasingly erratic. We are out of options, Dr. Zilak finally conceded. Proceed, Dr. Wells. The human surgeon nodded, then turned to his assistant. Sarah, prepare a 20 cubic centimeters injection of the nanites. We'll introduce them through the spinal canal to ensure maximum distribution. As Dr. Johnson prepared the injection, Dr. Wells used a holographic display to show the alien medical team exactly what they were about to do. The nanites will tag the parasite tissue, making it visible under specialized scanning, he explained. Once we can clearly see the boundary between host and parasite, we can use a precisely modulated electromagnetic pulse to disrupt the parasite's neural function without harming the ambassador. And then, Dr. Zilak asked, then we surgically remove the organism while it's paralyzed, Dr. Wells said. But we'll have less than 5 minutes before it recovers. The procedure began with the injection of nanites into Ambassador Threll's spinal fluid. Within seconds, the monitors showed the tiny machines dispersing throughout her nervous system, attaching themselves to the parasite. Activating contrast imaging, Dr. Johnson announced, adjusting the surgical bay scanners. The holographic display above the surgical table suddenly illuminated with a 3-dimensional image of the ambassador's nervous system. The parasite was now clearly visible, a dense, web-like structure wrapped around her brain stem and extending tendrils down her spinal cord and into various parts of her brain. It's worse than I thought, Dr. Wells murmured. The integration is almost complete. The alien medical team stared in horror at the extent of the infestation. What had seemed like a single organism was actually a complex network that had infiltrated much of the ambassador's central nervous system. This is impossible to remove, Dr. Malfoy said, her voice trembling. It would be like trying to separate two liquids that have been mixed together. Not impossible, Dr. Wells corrected her. Just incredibly difficult. We'll need to work fast and be absolutely precise. He looked at Dr. Zilak. I'll need your best neurosurgeon to assist me. That would be Dr. Alex, Dr. Zilak said, gesturing to a tall, slender alien with 6 arms, each ending in extremely dexterous fingers. Perfect, Dr. Wells nodded appreciatively. Those extra hands will come in handy. Dr. Alex, are you familiar with microsurgical extraction techniques? I am the leading microsurgeon in 3-star systems, Dr. Alex replied, a hint of pride in his voice. Good, because we're going to need every bit of that skill, Dr. Wells said. Sarah, prepare the EMP device for the first phase. Dr. Johnson calibrated a small, disc-shaped device that she then handed to Dr. Wells. This will generate a highly localized electromagnetic pulse, Dr. Wells explained. It will temporarily disrupt the parasite's neural function without affecting the ambassador's own neurons, thanks to the nanites acting as a buffer. How can you be certain of this? Dr. Zilak asked. Because the nanites are programmed to absorb and redirect the pulse energy specifically at the parasite tissue, Dr. Wells explained. It's like creating a microscopic lightning rod network that will channel the energy exactly where we want it. Despite their skepticism, the alien medical team was impressed by the ingenuity of the approach. They watched as Dr. Wells carefully positioned the EMP device at the base of Ambassador Threll's skull. On my mark, he said, his finger hovering over the activation button. 3, 2, 1. Mark. A soft pulse of blue light emanated from the device. On the monitors, they could see the parasite's neural activity suddenly stop, the web-like structure going dark on the display. It worked, Dr. Malfoy exclaimed. Phase 1 worked, Dr. Wells corrected. Now comes the hard part. We have exactly 4 minutes and 30 seconds to remove as much of the parasite as possible before it reactivates. What followed was a masterclass in surgical precision. Dr. Wells and Dr. Alex worked in perfect synchronization, using micro-scalpels and extraction tools to carefully separate the parasite from the ambassador's tissue. Dr. Alex's 6 arms moved with incredible speed and accuracy, while Dr. Wells directed the operation with calm authority. Careful with that section, Dr. Wells warned as Dr. Alex was about to sever a particularly delicate connection. That's attached to her autonomic regulation center. Cut here instead. He pointed to a slightly different spot. Dr. Zilak and the rest of the team assisted, providing suction, cauterization, and monitoring the ambassador's vital signs, which remained dangerously unstable. 2 minutes remaining, Dr. Johnson announced, keeping track of the time. We're not going to get it all, Dr. Wells said grimly, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cooling system in his protective suit. The infiltration is too extensive. Then what do we do? Dr. Zilak asked, panic edging into his voice. We focus on the command node, Dr. Wells replied, pointing to a slightly larger bulge in the parasite structure near the base of the brain. That's the equivalent of its brain. If we can remove that, the rest of the organism will lose coordination and eventually die off. With renewed focus, the team concentrated their efforts on isolating and extracting the command node. Dr. Alex's extra limbs proved invaluable, holding tissue retractors while simultaneously cutting and cauterizing. 30 seconds, Dr. Johnson warned. Almost there, Dr. Wells muttered, his hands steady despite the pressure. Just need to separate this last connection and... Got it. He lifted a small, pulsing mass from the ambassador's brain stem, a glistening, purple-black organism about the size of a grape, with tiny filaments still attempting to reattach themselves. Containment unit, he called out. Dr. Malfoy rushed forward with a specialized container, into which Dr. Wells dropped the parasite's command node. The container sealed automatically, a blue light indicating successful quarantine. 10 seconds until reactivation, Dr. Johnson announced. Everyone step back, Dr. Wells ordered. We need to see if the remaining sections will go dormant without the command node. The team moved away from the surgical table, watching the monitors intently. As the countdown reached 0, they held their breath, expecting the worst. On the display, small sections of the parasite lit up briefly, pulsed erratically, and then went dark again. After several tense moments, it became clear that the remaining fragments were indeed losing coordination. "It's working," Dr. Zilak said, his skin beginning to return to its normal blue hue. "The fragments are dying." "Not dying yet," Dr. Wells corrected, "but they're no longer functioning as a cohesive organism. The ambassador's immune system should be able to handle the rest, with some help from targeted antiparasitics." Ambassador Threll's vital signs began to stabilize, her breathing becoming more regular. The violent convulsions ceased, replaced by occasional twitches as her nervous system began to reassert control. "We need to close up and get her to recovery," Dr. Wells said. "She's not out of danger yet, but she has a fighting chance now." As they began the process of closing the surgical site, Dr. Zilak placed a hand on Dr. Wells' shoulder, a gesture of respect among his people. "Thank you, Dr. Wells," he said. "We would have lost her without your intervention." "Don't thank me yet," Dr. Wells replied. "The hard part is still ahead. Recovery from this kind of neural invasion is going to be challenging. She'll need extensive therapy to regain full control of her functions." "But she will recover?" Dr. Melfi asked. "With proper care and time, yes, I believe so," Dr. Wells said. "And more importantly, we can study this parasite and develop better defenses against it." Later, as Ambassador Threll was transferred to a recovery pod, the medical team gathered in Dr. Zilak's office to debrief. The container holding the parasite's command node sat in the center of the table, the organism inside still occasionally twitching. "This is definitely bioengineered," Dr. Wells confirmed after running several tests. "It's too specialized, too perfectly adapted to infiltrate neural tissue to be natural." "Who would create such a thing?" Dr. Zilak wondered. "And why target Ambassador Threll specifically?" "That's something your security services will need to investigate," Dr. Wells said. "But I can tell you this: the design is similar to weapons developed during Earth's colonial wars a century ago. They were banned under the Tycho Accords." "Could humans be responsible for this?" Dr. Melfi asked, her three eyes narrowing suspiciously. "It's possible," Dr. Wells admitted. "But this is more advanced than anything in our arsenal. And honestly, what would Earth gain from destabilizing relations with the Phidian Confederation? We're trading partners, not rivals." "True," Dr. Zilak conceded. "And you did come to her aid immediately. Which brings me to another point," Dr. Wells said. "This attack may not be isolated. If someone has revived this technology, they could be targeting other diplomats as well." The implication sent a chill through the room. The alien medical team looked at each other with growing concern. "We need to develop a detection protocol," Dr. Alex suggested. "A way to scan for these parasites before they have time to infiltrate so deeply." "Exactly," Dr. Wells agreed. "And I'd like to propose a joint research initiative between our medical communities. This kind of threat transcends species boundaries." Dr. Zilak nodded slowly. "I will recommend this to the Concordat Medical Council immediately. But first, we must ensure Ambassador Threll recovers fully." For the next week, Dr. Wells and Dr. Johnson remained on the medical station, working alongside the alien team to monitor the ambassador's recovery and develop treatment protocols. Progress was slow but steady. The remaining fragments of the parasite continued to degrade, and Ambassador Threll began showing signs of returning consciousness. On the 8th day, as Dr. Wells was checking her neural scans, the ambassador's eyes suddenly opened. Her vertical pupils contracted in the light, focusing slowly on the human standing beside her bed. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice raspy from disuse. "I'm Dr. Gregory Wells," he replied with a small smile. "How are you feeling, Ambassador?" "Like I have been trampled by a herd of draconian mega-beasts," she said weakly. "What happened to me?" Dr. Zilak, who had just entered the room, stepped forward. "You were attacked, Ambassador. A parasite was placed in your system, likely during your visit to Vega Prime. It attempted to take control of your nervous system." The ambassador's scaled face showed shock, followed by understanding. "The headaches. The loss of time. I thought I was simply overworked." "Early symptoms are often mistaken for fatigue or stress," Dr. Wells explained. "By the time more serious symptoms appear, the parasite is usually well established." "And you removed it?" she asked. Dr. Wells and our team performed the extraction," Dr. Zilak said. It was a procedure none of us had attempted before, but the human doctor had experience with similar cases. Ambassador Threll turned her gaze back to Dr. Wells. Then I owe you my life, Dr. Wells. You owe it to the combined efforts of both medical teams, he corrected. It was a collaboration that saved you, not any one individual. The ambassador attempted to sit up, but found her limbs still weak and unresponsive. When will I recover fully? She asked, frustration evident in her voice. Neural regeneration takes time, Dr. Wells explained gently. You'll need to relearn some basic motor functions, but with therapy, you should regain approximately 95% of your previous capabilities within a few months. Months. The ambassador's dismay was evident. There is a critical peace conference in 2 weeks. I must attend. Dr. Wells and Dr. Zilak exchanged glances. That would not be advisable, Dr. Zilak said. Your recovery is still in its early stages. Perhaps we can find a compromise, Dr. Wells suggested. With intensive therapy and some technological assistance, you might be able to attend virtually, at least for the most critical sessions. The idea seemed to please the ambassador. Yes, that would be acceptable. Better than nothing. Over the next few days, a specialized therapy regimen was developed for the ambassador. Dr. Wells worked with the alien physical rehabilitation specialists to create exercises specifically designed to restore neural pathways damaged by the parasite. Meanwhile, Dr. Johnson and Dr. Melfi focused on studying the parasite's command node, carefully dissecting it to understand its structure and function. It's incredible, Dr. Johnson remarked as they examined a microscopic section of the organism. The neural density is unlike anything I've seen before. It's almost like a miniature brain. And look at these structures, Dr. Melfi added, pointing to a series of tiny filaments visible under the microscope. They appear designed to mimic the host's neural signals. Perfect for hijacking control, Dr. Johnson agreed. But the question remains who made it, and how did it get into the ambassador? Their investigation took an unexpected turn when they discovered a tiny mechanical component embedded in the parasite's tissue, a transmitter, no larger than a grain of sand. This changes everything, Dr. Wells said when they showed him their finding. This parasite wasn't just meant to take control of the ambassador. It was meant to transmit information back to whoever created it. Espionage, Dr. Zilak suggested, or assassination with plausible deniability, Dr. Wells said grimly. If the parasite had completed its takeover, it could have forced the ambassador to do anything, including taking her own life. The revelation prompted a security lockdown of the medical station. The Concordat security force sent a team to investigate, collecting evidence and interviewing everyone who had contact with the ambassador during her Vega Prime visit. 2 weeks after the surgery, Ambassador Threll had made remarkable progress. Though still confined to a hover chair, she had regained significant control over her upper body and could speak without difficulty. As planned, she participated in the peace conference virtually, her diplomatic skills apparently undiminished by her ordeal. After one particularly long session, she requested a private meeting with Dr. Wells, who was preparing to return to his ship the following day. I wanted to thank you properly, she said when they were alone in her recovery room. Not just for saving my life, but for teaching your techniques to Dr. Zilak and his team. I understand you've been conducting training sessions. Dr. Wells nodded. Knowledge sharing is crucial in medicine. The next time something like this happens, and there will be a next time, they'll be prepared. You could have kept your methods to yourself, the ambassador observed, given humans an advantage. That kind of thinking is what leads to bioweapons in the first place, Dr. Wells replied. Besides, medical knowledge shouldn't be hoarded or weaponized. It should be shared for the benefit of all sentient beings. The ambassador studied him for a moment, then reached into a drawer beside her bed and removed a small, crystalline object. This is a Phidian life debt token, she explained, holding it out to him. In our culture, when someone saves another's life, they become connected family, in a sense. By accepting this, you would have claimed to any assistance I could ever provide. Dr. Wells hesitated. Ambassador, that's not necessary. It is to me, she insisted. And it is not just personal. Your willingness to share your knowledge rather than exploit it for advantage has not gone unnoticed. The Phidian Confederation would like to propose a formal medical exchange program with Earth. Dr. Wells carefully accepted the token, recognizing the diplomatic significance of the moment. I would be honored to help establish such a program. Good, the ambassador said with satisfaction. Because I have already spoken with your government. They are sending a delegation to formalize the arrangement next month. The next day, as Dr. Wells and Dr. Johnson prepared to depart, the entire medical team gathered to see them off. Dr. Zilak, who had been somewhat dismissive of the human doctor initially, now stood at the front of the group. Dr. Wells, he said formally, on behalf of the Galactic Medical Station Novum, I would like to present you with this. He handed over a data crystal. It contains our complete research on 15 species-specific parasites endemic to our sectors of space. We believe this exchange of knowledge should go both ways. Dr. Wells accepted the crystal with genuine appreciation. This will be invaluable to our research. Thank you. There is more, Dr. Zilak continued. The Concordat Medical Council has approved the creation of a new division focused on parasitic threats, inspired by your work here. We would be honored if you would consider taking a consulting position. The offer caught Dr. Wells by surprise. I'm flattered, but my duties with the Earth Alliance would not be affected, Dr. Zilak assured him. This would be an advisory role, primarily conducted remotely. But it would give both our peoples a chance to learn from each other. Dr. Wells looked at Dr. Johnson, who nodded encouragingly. In that case, he said, turning back to Dr. Zilak, I accept. As they boarded their ship a short time later, Dr. Johnson couldn't help but smile. So, consulting for the Concordat Medical Council. That's quite an honor. It's an opportunity, Dr. Wells corrected her. For both our species, we have much to learn from each other. And the parasite? She asked, her expression growing serious. The security investigation is still ongoing. We might never know who was behind the attack. We'll find out, Dr. Wells said with quiet determination. Because whoever engineered that parasite won't stop with one attempt. And next time, we'll be ready for them. As their ship detached from the medical station and prepared for the jump to hyperspace, Dr. Wells looked out at the vast expanse of stars. The universe was full of dangers, but also full of potential allies. Today had proven that when faced with a common threat, different species could work together effectively, a lesson as valuable as any medical technique he could have shared. The investigation into the parasite attack continued for months. Eventually, evidence pointed to a terrorist faction opposed to the peace treaty Ambassador Threll had been negotiating. Several arrests were made, but the primary creator of the parasite remained at large. Ambassador Threll made a full recovery and returned to her diplomatic duties, now with an even stronger commitment to interspecies cooperation. The medical exchange program she had proposed flourished, with doctors from Earth and the Concordat regularly sharing techniques and discoveries. Dr. Wells split his time between his duties with the Earth Alliance and his consulting work for the Concordat. The joint research initiative he had suggested led to the development of advanced scanning protocols that could detect neural parasites in their earliest stages before they could cause significant damage. A year after the incident, a new medical facility was established on a neutral world, staffed by physicians from both human and Concordat worlds. Its mission, to study and counter biological threats that could affect any sentient species. Dr. Wells was asked to give the opening address. A year ago, I was called to treat a patient suffering from a parasite designed to control and ultimately kill. He told the assembled crowd of medical professionals from a dozen different worlds. What I found was not just a patient in need, but colleagues who were willing to set aside preconceptions and work together toward a common goal. He looked out at the diverse faces before him, some with scales, some with multiple eyes, some with skin and colors humans would never naturally possess. But all shared the same commitment to healing and protecting life. Today, we formalize that cooperation, he continued. Not because we must, but because we've seen how much more we can accomplish together than apart. The threats we face don't care about species boundaries or political affiliations. Neither should our response to them. As he concluded his speech, Dr. Wells caught sight of Ambassador Threll in the audience, standing tall and proud, fully recovered from her ordeal. She met his gaze and nodded slightly, a gesture of respect between equals. The applause that followed came from hands, tentacles, and appendages of all descriptions. But the sentiment behind it was universal: appreciation for a shared commitment to preserving life in all its forms. Later, as Dr. Wells mingled with his new colleagues, Dr. Zilak approached him with a datapad. "We've detected another possible parasite case in the Rigel system," he said without preamble. "Different from the one that infected the ambassador, but similar enough to suggest the same creator." Dr. Wells took the pad and studied the information. "I'll need to see the patient." "Already arranged," Dr. Zilak replied. "A transport will be ready in the morning." Dr. Wells nodded, already mentally preparing for the challenge ahead. This was the new normal: threats that transcended species boundaries, requiring solutions that did the same. "I'll be ready," he said simply. And he knew, as he looked around at the diverse team they had assembled, that together they would face whatever came next. The parasite that had nearly killed Ambassador Threll had failed in its mission to divide. Instead, it had inadvertently created something stronger: a union of different species, united by the common cause of healing. The fight was far from over, but for the first time, they were truly prepared to face it together.